After treating the matter empirically and dialectically in its various aspects, the Guru finally supports the whole with reference to historical fact. He selects as instances sages of unquestionable status in the authentic dialectical context of the Vedanta, which is the same as that of the Vedas, where this phenomenon of caste has to be placed if it is to be understood. Parasara was the father of Vyasa, who was also called the Veda Vyasa, arranger of the Vedas, said to be the author of the Mahabharata and of the Bhagavad Gita contained or inserted in it, which is one of the canonical texts of Vedanta, held in high authority. Parasara must have been of the prehistoric dialectical context whose characteristics we have already indicated in earlier chapters. Vyasa and Vedanta are linked up inseparably forever, so in the very context of the Vedas we find nullifying evidence against caste. Orthodoxy and heterodoxy meet and reevaluate themselves in terms of pure wisdom, without heredity or tradition playing any part in the revaluation, which takes place more in spite of than because of heredity. Even if some people hold that Brahmanhood emerges as the culmination of a hereditary selection of aptitudes, such a theory or notion is not borne out by historical facts. The other sage referred to as Vyasa himself, also mentioned in the Genesis chapters of the Puranas as being born of a fisher maiden. If, as may be, he is also the author of the Brahma Sutras, the great stringer together of the wisdom aphorisms, then here at the heart of what is called roughly Hinduism, we have evidence that blows the false notion of caste to smithereens. For Vyasa or Badarayana, whatever he may be called, sometimes known as Vyasa the dark-skinned sage, is a recognized Brahma Rishi, taken into the fold as a Brahmin of the Brahmins, although not of that line at all. The Guru's aim here is to reveal to all that these saintly characters, Parasara and Vyasa, who are recognized everywhere as ancestors of holy cherished memory, and worshipped as such by all castes in every home in the Hindu world, are themselves outstanding reminders that mere prejudice lingers round the notion of caste, since they come from the much abused and misunderstood pariah line and not from the Brahmin stock at all. Hence here to be faced as the ultimate contradiction of the Brahmin, not only accepting and adopting the pariah guru, but putting him on the topmost pedestal as a sage of supreme value from the Vedic point of view. In the contradictory absurdity thus proved, all caste prejudices based on heredity, dynasty and blind tradition must be dispelled, and the social atmosphere of the present ultimately and finally cleared of this major caste impediment. Here it might be permissible to add some concluding remarks on caste, having dealt with it more or less completely in the form of actual textual comments. The Upanishads speak of Brahman, Brahmanhood, and Kshatram, Kshatriyahood, or the warrior pattern, as attitudes of the personality which are superimposed as secondary conditionings on the self. The Katha Upanishad treats of these as rice or food, to which the final consummation of specialization is the dead-end fixed sauce or pickles added on to the rice base of food, as it were, which is called death, the cul-de-sac terminus of artificial specialization. The basic ego is characterless and neutral, but becomes specialized with character as Brahman and Kshatriya, which finally attains culmination in the extinction of death. The numinous self is the neutral basis for all the secondary conditionings, social, psychological or religious, added onto it. Such is the attitude of the highest Upanishads with regard to Brahmanhood. If this attitude is vague, we find in the Bhagavad Gita further indications regarding the four castes. The four castes were created by me, i.e., Krishna, the Guru, God, or Acharya, in order to divide innate nature and aptitudes to action. Know me to be the author thereof as also its undoer ever the same. Single quote. The innate contradiction in this verse, where God creates caste and undoes it himself, can be explained only in the light of the dialectical revaluation of caste as it prevailed at the epoch when the verse was composed. The four castes, based on vocations and corresponding aptitudes, being necessary and inevitable in any human society, even as in the Greek society of Plato, had elements of universal validity which were attributable to the creator of nature. Wisdom, however, transcends nature, and in transcending the practical domain of relative, historical or sociological necessities, seeks pure reason and dissolves what has been built up by prior necessities, by means of new or revalued terms of contingent freedom. In the light of the revival of orthodoxy after the decline of Buddhism, at the time when the above verse was written, such an ambiguous revaluation was all that was possible for the author.